am Luke Womack with The Arena, and we help business owners break past their revenue plateau. I am so excited. Today, I'm going to be joined by Madie. Madie bought a business just recently with her dad called Balboa Island Baking Company, or BIBCO. And among other things, they sell cinnamon rolls. I mean, talk about a cool business and sort of like a Hallmark story, buying a company with your dad. So cool. So we're going to sit down with her and we're going to be talking about a couple of the constraints in their company. Remember, they just bought it, so they just stepped in. Company's right around $200,000 in revenue, and they want to grow to that next stage ultimately of around 500 grand in revenue. If you're a business owner who's wanting to break past your revenue plateau, listen in to the conversation that we have today as we talk about how to help Madie grow her business. Let's go. Hey Madie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Madie. I am the pastry chef and co-owner of Balboa Island Baking Company. Born and raised in Orange County. Went to pastry school with a childhood dream of one day owning a bakery. And now I get to run Balboa Island Baking Co. with my dad.
Wow, how cool is that? It's like a Hallmark movie.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about this. You bought this business with your dad, and at some point you have some dream of what to do with the company. So tell us about that. Like, what's your vision? What's your dream for this organization, for this bakery?
Yeah. Well, I love that the bakery, we bought a pre-existing business and it already has such a great tradition and history on the island. So I really want to steward that well, take the tradition and expand and build on what's already established there, make it a destination for people in Orange County to come visit, that it could be a place where people come and feel like they're in my home kitchen and have a little bit of an experience while they're there.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the origin story. Can you tell us about kind of where all this came from? I mean, buying a bakery is something probably a lot of people haven't done, right? So what's the origin story here?
Yep, it's a good story. Like I said, childhood dream was to one day own a bakery, but I had no idea that would actually become a reality for me. When the pandemic started, I actually did a career switch and decided to go to pastry school mid-pandemic, and couldn't believe I hadn't done it sooner in life. I felt like it was exactly what I was meant to do. And so from pastry school, I went to work at a gourmet cookie shop where I was trained from apprentice all the way up till their head pastry chef. And then I found out that the bakery on Balboa Island was for sale. And it was right at the time my dad was about to retire. And I thought, what dad doesn't want to, go into business with their child in retirement? So I pitched the idea to him and he laughed at me and said, absolutely not. And so I thought, okay, well, that's all right. It was shot, and luckily he couldn't get the idea out of his head. And so he went and he met with the old owners, asked if he could run numbers as the accountant that he is. And he was like, this is actually kind of cool. And so he ended up putting an offer in without me or my mom knowing, and they accepted it. And he was like, oh, shoot, I should probably go make sure that Madie actually wants to do this. And I did. And so we hit the ground running, didn't look back, and we're just taking it as it comes, learning as we go.
So your dad makes an offer without telling you. Offer gets accepted and comes back and makes sure that you still want the business.
Correct.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
What a great gift. So who are you building this for? Like, let's talk about the customer you have in mind. Who do you want to walk through the doors of BIBCO?
Well, we're in the middle of such an awesome community that they're my first priority, the locals to Balboa and to Newport, but we're also a huge stop for tourism. We have people from all over coming to visit, and so I really want the business to be for them as well, that they can come and have a unique experience while they're in town.
And how do you serve your customers? Like, what's your primary offer, if you will?
Well, we're known for our cinnamon rolls.
Hey.
That is the same recipe from the original owners, so it's 40-plus-year-old recipe that we still get to serve. But we also offer other high-quality breakfast pastries as well, muffins and scones and cookies and things like that as well.
Very cool. So you're a classically trained pastry chef, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and you come into this bakery that's been in existence since the 80s, and you look at the recipe card for that original cinnamon roll, and you thought, what?
Better do it justice. I don't know.
Was it good? Like, was it a good
delicious.
recipe?
It was great. And because the bakery had changed hands over that course of like 40 plus years, I felt like actually the product had lost its quality. And so I really wanted to restore the quality back to such an iconic item. So yeah, I felt a huge responsibility to steward the recipe well because it had been such a staple for so long at the bakery.
Very cool. And for those of us who are, Philistines in the kitchen, like what are the ingredients in a cinnamon roll? What goes into it?
Simple: flour, sugar, butter, milk, salt, and yeast. That's it.
That's it.
And then cinnamon, I guess,
Of
obviously.
course.
Yeah.
Cool. Simple.
Simple.
Hard to execute.
Labor of love.
Labor of love. I love it. Okay. So talk to us about how the business actually makes money. Like what are the economics of the business? That's why you got into business, right? Because you really wanted to just talk about the money, right?
Right. No. I mean, our pastries are really the main source of revenue here. People coming to get breakfast and treats, and that's how we make money right there. Yeah.
It's a simple business.
It's really
people
simple.
walk in,
Yep.
they smell cinnamon rolls, they buy one,
Yeah.
they leave, right? It's not a complex transaction.
It's not.
Good.
Yeah.
So give me like a basic breakdown of the numbers. Like at a high level, talk about, revenue and expenses. What does that look like for the company?
Right now, the business makes around $200,000 in revenue. Highest cost for us is paying our employees. That's the number one expense. After that, we have, utilities and rent. And then food cost is actually our lowest expense in the business right now.
So unlike a typical restaurant for whom typically labor plus food, like that's their prime rate, it's called. Those are the two highest costs. For you, because you're unique in the food space, you're a bakery, your labor is still high, obviously, because people cost a lot, but your food costs are really low because you're not selling meat.
Yeah.
Right? Meat is typically the most expensive thing, and you're selling effectively flour and yeast and water and cinnamon that are put together really nicely, right?
Yeah.
So food is actually a pretty low cost item for you.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay. How are you spending your time at the business? What are your key areas of responsibility there?
Yeah. Number one responsibility is daily baking. So I'm there every morning preparing the food that we'll sell each day. By far my greatest responsibility because without it we can't open for the day. But after that, I am in charge of managing my employees, scheduling, inventory. Yeah, a lot of those administrative tasks as well, just to make sure our doors can stay open. But yeah, baking is definitely my main role.
So you wear all the chef's hats.
All the chef's hats. Yeah.
What would you say feels stuck in the business right now?
We want to grow, but we're not exactly sure how to grow because we are just offering simple items. We have a relatively static menu outside of a few seasonal offerings that rotate. So it's hard to figure out how to grow in such a simple business because we are going to continue to just sell pastries. So how do we grow and expand without totally changing the essence of who we are? And we want to stay relatively small and quaint because that's the charm of the business as well. So without totally losing who we are, how do we grow?
So what do you know that you need to do right now? Like, do you have anything that kind of is in the back of your mind? You're like, yeah, I should probably do that, but you haven't done it yet?
We have no way of capturing our customers. Our point of sale system doesn't have any way to do that, and we are not super excited with our point of sale that we chose. Getting into this, we didn't really know what to choose, and so we just picked what was available right then. So I do think we need to change our point of sale system, and then I think we need to figure out other ways to expand our offerings so that we can grow revenue. Also, I think that in order to grow, we have to have a goal that we're working towards, and I don't know if we have a very clear vision or mission for the business because we just jumped into it so quickly.
So I have some ideas for the company, and I'd love to jump in and see if we can maybe just pull like 2 or 3 levers to help set you up to grow the business. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Cool. What I'd like to do is sort of take a pause on developing vision for the company. I think we need to just like get our feet grounded and figure out a few things first to get us growing. And then as you go, you can sort of develop vision. The first thing that comes to mind that I'd really like to work on for you is offers. So you mentioned like, we want to grow the company, but we want to make sure we don't sort of lose the essence of what this company has always been. And so that's tricky, right? You want to make sure you don't blow up the company and then all the locals are like, what happened to the company we used to love, right?
Right.
So the first thing I'd like to talk about is your offers mix. And offer sits inside the strategy segment. Every organization has 6 systems: focus, strategy, cash, team, rhythm, and tools. And offer sort of sits inside strategy. Strategy is really an answer to the question, how do we win as a business? So offers is a big piece of that. And I'd like to spend a little bit more time inside strategy. The second thing that comes to mind that I love to figure out is pricing. So I'd love to talk through your existing prices. I'm guessing you inherited some prices, and figure out sort of what to do with that so you can grow the company, and even do a quick diagnostic on your prices and figure out if there's any right sizing that needs to happen. And the third thing I'd like to talk about is rhythms. So when I say rhythms, a lot of people call them meetings, but meetings are boring. So I say rhythms, right? And rhythm is more about like a cadence of leadership. So you're a young lady, you're a classically trained chef, and probably done a little bit of leadership here and there, but I'm guessing the first time you've led a company, right?
Yes.
And so rhythms is one of the best ways as a young leader to sort of figure out what a cadence of leadership looks like. So I'm gonna recommend a couple of rhythms and just try to figure out one that you can add as you sort of, get your leadership feet wet, so to speak. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to sort of an offers flywheel diagram, and I'll just overview it real quick. So basically, every company has at least one offer, right? And I would guess your primary offer is your cinnamon rolls, of course. I think what's really important is to understand sort of the progression of engagement from customers, right? Like, what would it look like for a customer to, kind of take one step toward your business, and then 2, and then 3, and develop a bit of an offers flywheel. Now, I normally don't recommend companies have 50 different offers, but thinking of your offers in terms of a flywheel can be a way to talk about how over time you can increase your price and increase the value, and invite maybe a cinnamon roll lover into a deeper offer with you that's maybe more profitable and higher engagement. So let me map this out for us, and then I'd love to figure out sort of your low, your mid, and your high offer. So let's do that first.
Cool.
Sort of the goal of developing an offers flywheel is engage customers, right? Like we want customers that are happy and that don't just buy from you once, but buy from you a lot. What we're gonna do is map out 3 levels of engaged customers for you. So what we're gonna start with is sort of your low offer. Think of this as a way for people to sort of test what it's like to buy from BIBCO in a way that requires less financial commitment from them. So it's kind of like your easiest, most accessible offer. Sometimes these can be described as a loss leader. So do you know what a loss leader means?
No.
Okay, so a loss leader is like when a business comes up with an offer that actually has very little or even no profits. Like they might actually lose money on that item because they just want to get people in the door. So I don't know the exact margins, but a great example is like Costco rotisserie chickens, right? Do you know how much those cost?
Not a lot.
Okay, $5, okay? Everywhere else, like Sprouts charges like $15, $20 for them, right? And they're all good, but like the one at Costco is $5. Guess where they put it in the store?
By the checkout?
They put it all the way at the back.
Oh.
Why would they do that? Why
to get people to walk through the store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know their margins on it. I'm guessing they're not that good because they're selling a bunch of meat for $5.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that people are going all the way to the back and going by their higher margin items to get the rotisserie chicken in the back, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of their entry level offer, if you will.
Sure.
So your entry level offer, like I said, is low price. It's a sort of affordable thing for people to buy. Sometimes it's even free. You could think of this even as like a lead magnet sometimes, or I've heard it called a product for prospects. Basically, like what's the most affordable thing that you sell right now in the business that's like not your main offer, but it's something that people can buy pretty cheaply? What is that?
Probably scones, or our scone is our lowest.
Perfect. So scones, anything else?
Cinnamon roll bites.
Cinnamon roll bites, perfect. Okay, so we'll write that. So scones and cinnamon roll bites. All right, so next is your sort of core offers, right? It's right in the middle. It's a decent price point. It's profitable for you, and it's kind of like your daily money maker, the thing that people know you for, the thing that people show up for, and that's got to be your cinnamon rolls, right?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last offer is your high offer, and this is really all about positioning. So you're positioning your sort of core offer buyers to buy more from you, right? You can buy only so many cinnamon rolls per day, but you might have loyal customers that have been going to that shop for decades saying, what else is there for me, right?
Yeah.
So that's where a high offer comes in. And oftentimes a high offer is a much higher price point, like not double, could be like 20 or 50 or 100 times the price point of your core or your mid offer. So do you have any high offers right now? Anything in the mix that like people can buy that might be like 50 times more expensive than a cinnamon roll?
No.
like maybe a dozen cinnamon rolls? Is that like
Yeah,
the closest thing? Just
maybe
more cinnamon rolls.
Yeah,
Right?
just
Okay.
higher quantity of the same items.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of the entry, the mid, and the high offers, does it feel like any of those are a little less dialed than the others? What do you think?
The high.
The high, you don't really have one, right? So unless you just want to buy more of the core offer, more of the cinnamon rolls,
Yeah.
there's really nothing there right now.
No.
Okay. I want to be very careful as we talk about this legacy company, not to like blow it up and say like, hey, we're getting rid of it and we're turning it into a full restaurant, and like that's not the core competency, right? That'd be sort of a betrayal of the essence of the bakery.
Yeah.
So I think a really easy way to sort of step into that is to make a high offer, right? That'll sort of expand and deepen what you're already doing, sticks inside your core competency, and also maintains that legacy piece while also helping to grow the company's revenue.
Yeah.
So let's just brainstorm a little bit. Like, what are some potential high offers? We already threw out just buy more cinnamon rolls, right? But beyond that, like what's a different type of offer that's a little bit higher from a price point perspective that maybe could work?
Potentially merch or merchandise.
Cool,
We don't
okay.
have any right now for the bakery.
So hats, t-shirts, tote bags, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Totally. So the trouble with merch is it's not necessarily a high offer, because if you're charging however much for a cinnamon roll, it's probably going to be a pretty similar price point to merch, right? So
Yeah.
that could work. It's almost like a higher core offer potentially. What else? What other potential high offers?
Catering, potentially. Large orders.
Yep. I like that.
Special
So
events.
don't buy one cinnamon roll, buy 500 for a big event. That could totally work. Any other ideas?
Maybe baking classes.
Okay. So talk to me about baking classes, because your face changed when you talked about those. Like, how does that one feel?
Sounds like a lot of extra work for me, but I think people would like to learn to make the cinnamon rolls because they're so iconic and they're a part of a lot of people's family tradition. Coming in and learning how we make them is probably something people would be interested in.
Yeah. Are you the only classically trained chef currently? Okay. So as you talk about building out these classes, potentially like you'd be doing all of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just like ease the burden a little bit. Oftentimes when we roll out something new, we think about the future and what this might become and what it maybe will become. And it can be overwhelming, right? You're like, there's no way I could do 5 baking classes a week. I think that's the best idea of the 3. Like all those could work. Catering could certainly work, but man, you have a really great sounding shop. It sounds like it's pretty small.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
So how
small.
many people could you fit in there for a baking class?
6 max.
Okay, so 6 people. So don't worry yet about rolling out daily baking classes. You're not going to be doing 200 of these a year. Like maybe just start with 1. Like let's do 1 baking class and see how that works.
Yeah.
One of the principles of sort of trying things early on is to do things that don't scale, which sounds so counterintuitive. Like, aren't we supposed to do things that can scale eventually? But for now, I think the point is, as you're building out these offers, testing things that you know for a fact right now won't scale. But if you can figure out, the product market fit today, like let's say you do 1 baking class and it works, and people show up and they love it, and this is going to be a much higher price point than cinnamon rolls, right?
Right.
You can figure out how to scale it later.
Yeah.
Like, let's just figure out if this works or not first. And then at the point at which you say, I give up, I can't do this anymore, that's when you hire someone else to take them over.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a great mix with your entry and your mid offer. You have cinnamon roll bites and scones at the entry level. You have your kind of core offer, your cinnamon rolls at a good price point. People are willing to travel for it to try it, right? And then I think you're definitely missing that high offer.
Yeah.
So if we can mix in a high offer and charge obviously a price point much higher than cinnamon rolls, I think it could be a great way to get your revenue out for the org.
Yeah.
You willing to try at least 1?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we talked a little bit about your offers. We built this offers flywheel and discovered maybe some low-hanging fruit for you is just introducing a high offer. And I think baking classes is perfect. Don't worry about doing 100 of them. Start with 1 and then kind of build as you go. The second thing I'd like to talk about as we continue to talk about strategy, that strategy slice of a healthy organization, is your pricing. But let's talk about coming into the business. Like when you came into the business, did you raise prices? Did you leave them where they were?
We left them as is. Yeah,
Okay.
we kind of came into the business and didn't want to change anything immediately because we entered into an already functional business that we never had to close it down. So we just kept things exactly the same.
And you probably didn't want to be like the big bad boys on the block that like
Yeah.
come in and like double prices and everyone's like, I hate these new owners and all that.
Totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'd love to ask a couple questions just to sort of diagnose where prices are. Because it's possible that the last owners, they had prices set perfectly. But I'm guessing, and this often happens, they didn't raise prices as they went. And so their margins sort of got cut into as they were growing. All right, so first question, what percentage of your customers push back on price?
None really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very low, if any. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask another one. Do you feel like in terms of capacity, you're constantly like running out of time, running out of product, or do you feel like you finish the day where you have extra time and you have extra product that you didn't sell out of, that sort of thing?
I feel like we're meeting our capacity most days, like reaching capacity. Definitely depending on the season. If we're talking peak summertime, definitely we're using every minute that we have because the demand is really high. So
let me ask a third question about value. So you come into the business, you don't raise prices. Do you feel like the value went up in terms of your products and what you were delivering? And if so, how to do that?
Yeah, well, I definitely feel that it did. Based on my training, I felt like I brought a new quality to the goods that we're selling, as well as bringing in some new recipes of my own that I think are very high quality, and just expanding the menu to offer more variety. So yeah, I definitely think that the quality went up.
So customers are getting more for their money now, more value for their money.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And everything we do is large in size, so you're definitely getting your money's worth as far as like portion size as well. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like your team is paid market rates, or do you feel like you might need to give people a raise over time?
I do think they would probably need a raise over time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And last one. Do you feel like your current pricing gives you enough extra money to be able to reinvest in the business? Like, I need to buy a new oven or something like that without stressing, or do you feel like those things cause stress in the company?
I think that there's definitely a stress point there in the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what we're saying is, number one, customers never push back on price. Number two, you're sort of occasionally exceeding capacity during the busy seasons. Number three, when you came into the business, you increased the value of the products you're offering, right? Just by making sure the recipes were dialed and everything. Number four, to replace people on your team, it would be higher, it'd be more expensive because maybe the market rate has gone up a little bit. And the fifth thing, anytime something breaks, it's stressful to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So those are 5 of the key indicators that I look for to ask the question, is it time to raise your prices? So based on those answers, what are your thoughts on a price increase potentially?
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's necessary.
It's probably time, right?
It's time.
Do you think the owners raised prices in the couple of years before you bought, or do you think they kept it at the same price?
I think they probably kept it the same. They had it during COVID, and I imagine that pushed them to want to maintain rather than do something new. So yeah, I think it has been a while.
So I just briefly, because I do agree, I think you should raise your prices. I just want to briefly look at the impact of inflation over the last few years on your company to show how margins can kind of erode without you knowing it. So let's look at that real quick before we finish. So imagine that 5 years ago, the company was charging, say, $10 for a product. If that product had, $8 of cost in it for the labor and, running the store, etc., and say $2 of profit, that would mean there's 20% profit margins, right? What's happened in the last couple of years in terms of inflation, say the last 5 years? Do you have any idea how much inflation there's been in the economy in the last 5 years looking back? It's okay. Most people don't.
I'm sorry.
It's about 25%.
Okay.
Okay, so what that means is that, let's say 5 years ago, the product was being sold for $10. You had $8 in cost, $2 in profit. That means you have a 20% profit margin.
Right.
But in the last 5 years, inflation has gone up 25%.
Right.
So what that means is that your cost is 8 times 1.25.
Right.
So your cost has actually gone up to $10. Now, what does that mean about your profits if you're charging the same amount?
You're not making any.
0.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're saying is that 5 years ago, if the price was $10, you had a $2 product. If you don't change prices over the last 5 years and the price is the same, your cost goes up to $10 and you have 0 profit. So what you really are doing over the last 5 years is giving your customers like a 25% discount. You're just not calling it that.
Right.
So my recommendation, right away across the board, you don't have to do it on day number 1, but you've been in the business for a little bit, is to raise the prices across the board. I would suggest 10%. It's a great place to start. My guess is that no one's going to notice, but doing so is effectively going to raise your revenue by 10%.
Yeah.
Does that feel about right, or does that feel too high or too low?
No, that feels right.
Cool. So let's do it. So we'll raise prices 10% across the board. You're going to see a bit of a revenue jump, right?
Amazing.
Cool. So you're Madie the chef. How does the idea of becoming Madie the leader sound to you? Is it scary? Does it sound exciting? How do you feel walking into that?
It's exciting, but it's definitely daunting not having any previous experience leading a team to this capacity. So excited, but nerve-wracking.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
So my guess is you're going to do great. What I'd like to do is give you some rhythms. So as you're stepping into your leadership of this company for the first time, you can over time sort of roll out a few of my recommended rhythms to really reinforce clarity for the company. One of the things that I've heard that really helped me when I was a young CEO is CEOs are to be the CRO, and that is the not just the chief executive officer, but the chief reminding officer. And one of the things that young leaders need to begin to do early on is remind their team about their vision, about their culture, about where they're headed. And one of the best ways to do that, so you don't have to think about it all the time, but it's just kind of built into the organization, is rhythms. Just having these regular cadences of leadership in the organization to make sure that you're flexing that leadership muscle, because flexing the chef muscle is probably really natural, but the leadership muscle is new. So this will just help you do that. So let's look at a couple of the rhythms that I recommend that CEOs start to roll out. So there's 6 rhythms that I recommend, and I want to start inside out. So at the middle, these are kind of like your daily, drum beats of leadership. And as we move out, they're less often, all equally impactful. It's not necessarily to go in this order or that order, but it's just sort of the rhythms that I recommend. So the first one is a daily huddle. And a daily huddle is where you get together with your team. In kitchen culture, this often happens anyways. A lot of restaurants will do it at like 3 p.m. and they call it family meal. You know about that better than me. They'll get together and they'll talk about the night, right? So this could be a 5-minute meeting. And the main questions that I recommend asking during a daily huddle are, number 1, what are you doing today? And number 2, what are your constraints? What's in the way? So literally just going around the circle. Some people call this a stand-up meeting, where literally you don't sit down, because when you sit down, people talk too much. But you're standing up, everyone's just going around real quick. Here's what I'm working on. Nothing's in my way. Great, next. Right? I'm doing this today and I'm stuck on this. Great, hey, let's talk after the meeting, right? It's just a great way for you to get a touch point with your team every single day. All right, the next rung is weekly. So there are a couple things that I recommend doing every single week so you can sort of have that rhythm of connecting with your employees. One of them is a weekly tactical. You can think of this as like the weekly team meeting, but the purpose of a tactical is not just to, show up and say, here's all the problems I'm dealing with. You want to figure out what the team's dealing with. So my recommendation when you do a weekly tactical is start by asking each person, kind of like with a huddle, what are the main things you're working on this week? And it causes people to zoom out a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 things they're working on. And then what you can do is just build the agenda off that. I can almost guarantee you, if people talk about 2 or 3 things that they're all working on for the week, there's going to be problems that pop up. So let's say someone says, hey, we have a big event coming up later this week. I'm working on that. And you could right then be like, hey, any problems with that? They're like, yeah, I have no idea how much food to make. Perfect. Add that to the agenda. And literally what people are working on for the next week sort of becomes the agenda for that meeting. And the next weekly rhythm I recommend is one-on-ones. So one-on-ones are a great way to make sure that you can connect on a human level with people. It's so easy in business, especially if you're, fast driving and want to grow a company, to only be talking about business. And we sort of forget to see the person behind the employee, right? You seem like you're probably pretty good at that naturally, and one great rhythm just to make sure you don't lose sight of that over time is just have a one-on-one. Right? I would say it's the number 1 most essential tool in the belt of any manager. It's just meet with each employee one-on-one once per week. It could be 25 or 30 minutes. You're at the bakery, right? Don't meet in the bakery. Maybe go on a walk, go to a coffee shop next door, something like that, and just see how they're doing. And they talk about them, you talk about you, and it can also be a place to talk about work if that's something that they want, but just a place to make sure that they're seen and there's still trust between you and the employee. So the next rung is monthly. There's one rhythm that I recommend every single month, and it's called scorecard reviews. In our tool system, we have a tool called scorecards, which basically helps you to set the expectations for every single employee about here's what's expected out of your role. And once per month, you sit down with them and you ask them how they did. So it's the employee name, it's all their tasks, and it's months for the columns, right? So in January, how did you do on your task? In February, how did you do on your task? So that's a task-focused meeting, and it's really making sure that they're staying on mission for their role. And if you do at some point have a low-performing employee, it really makes it a lot easier to part ways with them. Obviously, that's a really hard part of business, but imagine you never talk with employees about performance and you have to sadly terminate them. They're going to be shocked. They're like, why did that happen? Well, if scorecard reviews every single month and you're talking through their performance, and for a few months they're not performing, they're not going to be surprised. In fact, they might even see themselves out, which is often the best way. But having a scorecard review is just the number 1 way to help keep employees accountable. Now, quarterly, there's 2 rhythms that I recommend. One of them is the all hands meeting. meeting. And this is really the opportunity for you as the leader to get in front of the team and say, hey, over the last 90 days, here's where we've been, here's where we are today, and here's where we're going over the next 90 days. So it's an opportunity for you to sort of galvanize the team into action. I really do believe that like every 90 days, right around that amount of time, employees sort of lose motivation. And even leaders can lose motivation. And I think it's just timeless principle on vision. Vision tends to leak, right? If you think of, employees and humans sort of as like a colander, right? You know what a colander is, your baker. You put in the vision and the vision just starts to leak out.
Yeah.
And leaders are so confused. They're like, wait a second, I already put vision into this organization. Why did everyone forget? Well, because there's holes, right? Holes represent those distractions or frustrations or things that don't work in the business. And so you got to keep filling it up with vision. And the all hands meeting, we always call them the state of the organization or SOTO meeting, whatever you call it. It's just a chance for you to get in front of the team for 30 minutes or 45 minutes and sort of inspire the troops. And I'm telling you, it sounds like cheesy and it sounds corporate, but if you do it and you bring like your authentic self to it, people really appreciate and I think really want good leadership. And that's, I think, the perfect time for you to sort of step in and lead the company and give them a vision of where it's going and connect their jobs and their roles to the bigger picture. That's called an all hands meeting. And the last rhythm that I recommend is called a quarterly offsite. And that's where you take ideally a full day every 90 days where it's just you and your dad or your leadership team. And you're literally getting offsite, like leave the workplace and go dream about the company. So while the all hands is more about like public facing inspiration, the offsite is more about private facing planning. So you're getting behind closed doors, you're going to a hotel or a retreat center, or maybe even just your house, and you're dreaming about the company. And what you're doing is you're solving kind of the key issues that the company's currently facing that you don't have time to solve day to day. So maybe spending like an hour or two on one big issue. And then you're also setting goals for the next 90 days. So, hey, here are a couple of the metrics that we're hoping to hit. And now you can bring those back to your all hands meeting. So ideally, the offsites are like at the end of the quarter, so you can sort of plan, and the all hands are at the beginning of the next quarter. So you're like fresh off the offsite with clear vision, and you can share that with the team. Okay, so obviously this can be a little bit overwhelming. You're like, I just came into this business, and now you have these 6 rhythms for me to roll out. Let me be clear, I don't think you need to roll out all of these. I would love to see you roll out all these eventually, like over the next couple of years. But which of these do you think represents sort of the lowest hanging fruit for you and would move the needle the most in terms of your leadership growth and also inviting the team members to sort of take part in the vision and what you're trying to build?
Yeah, I think the all hands meetings would be huge for the team because it's rare that the whole team is ever together. We only have a couple employees working at a time. And so to get the whole team together and kind of get their energy up and help them connect with one another, I think would be really valuable.
I love that. So because these are shift workers, right? It's like they're not always together. They maybe don't even see each other for like a first shift, second shift, right?
Right.
So getting them sort of all in the same room just for a few minutes, casting vision is probably the best opportunity for you.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, so let's do an all hands meeting. Perfect.
Cool.
All right, so you bought this new business and you're trying to figure out how do I grow it without losing the essence. And so we don't want to do too much or get too fancy, but we talked about a couple of tweaks and a few levers that you can pull that have like a disproportionately positive outcome, right? So the first one, offers, roll out baking classes, right? Don't let it overwhelm you. Maybe just try a couple and see how they work. My guess is people are going to love them. 2, for you, we talked about pricing. It seems pretty obvious. It's time to raise your prices, right?
Yeah.
Raise them 10% across the board. One of the keys is that if no one ever complains about your prices, they're probably too low, but no customer is going to tell you that, right? They're not going to say, hey, you should increase your prices, right? That'd be counterintuitive. But it sounds like based on some of the diagnostic we did, it's probably time to raise them 10% and then evaluate after that. And then the third step for you when it comes to rhythms is just rolling out an all hands meeting and sort of testing out your leadership voice, getting in front of the team and talking about where the organization is headed. So roll out baking classes, raise your prices, all hands meeting. How does that feel in terms of helping grow the revenue if you're able to just do those 3 in the next few months?
Feels exciting and good. Yeah. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Tell people if they want to get in touch with BIBCO or if they want to come try a cinnamon roll, what's the best way for them to do each of those?
The best way to keep up with what we're doing is to follow us on Instagram at Balboa Island Baking Co. or just come in and visit and try a cinnamon roll for yourself.
Awesome. Balboa Island, California. Come on down.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Madie. Can't wait to see
you.
how you grow the business.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a great conversation with Madie today talking about BIBCO. What an awesome company, about $200,000 in revenue or so, trying to grow to $500,000. There's just a couple couple pretty simple tweaks that we made. So obviously raising her prices a little bit is going to be big for her. Also rolling out some of these new rhythms, like the all hands meeting, is going to be massive. And we also wanted to make sure that she had a high offer. So she was positioning herself so that customers could actually pay her more if they really liked her cinnamon rolls in her company. So we'll see how those go. I have a feeling they're going to go pretty well. If you like this video and you want to watch another one that's similar to it, check out this video here. For now, I'm Womack with The Arena. Thanks for watching.